Well, in theory, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, men and women of the world, we're live. So welcome to another episode of Camera and Flask. We hope it's all working. We are going to have a quick discussion at the head of the show about some of the things that we've been trying to do. Ben, by the way, was going to be here in about an hour, but somebody mentioned in the chat that maybe he thought that it was an hour later because all of our clocks have changed, but they haven't changed here in the United States of America. United is a strong word to use today, but it's the states of America at least. And welcome everybody to another episode of Camera and Flask, asterisk episode number 46 for Ben, if you can see that there. And let us know that you can hear us, that you can see us. And I'm going to start off as the host for the first time in apparently months, Ben.
Months and months.
It's true. Introduce my co-host. It's not that true. And so I'm going to start with the nice one, the golden boy below me, and that's Mr. Caleb Pike. So Caleb, how's it going this week?
Pretty good. You wouldn't say nice if you've been reading what I've been saying to keep people occupied while you solve stream problems. But yeah, doing good. It's gonna snow tonight, so that's fun.
Nice.
Amazing.
Here we go.
Not even November.
I
And
know.
here you are.
Yeah. It's wild.
Oh, my goodness. Shiz Nuts is here, 360 grad. David. Of course, my good friend who is in the Czech Republic, Ben BARDEN. How are you, Ben?
I'm having the day from hell, but otherwise fine. Thank you.
What is that? Oh, well, I won't prod, but I'm not happy to hear about it.
No, nothing hugely major. Just one of those days when everything's going slightly wrong. Trying to sort out paperwork for being able to carry on living here after the nonsense that's going on in my home nation right now. Which I thought I had sorted, and yeah, all that craziness. But let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe you aren't the nice one. Now Harrison's making comments about the mannequin. This mannequin is just unbelievable.
You should just embrace it. Just go for it.
I use it for an aperture video. They'll never send me a product ever again. It's all over.
This could be like a breaking moment for your in a good way, a breakout moment for your channel. Just embrace it as like a mascot. Put it in every video.
Yeah, I think
I love that
working for you. Clearly,
Mannequin was one of my favorite movies back in the 80s. I mean, not really favorite, but it was like it's one of those guilty pleasures.
It's his favorite.
It's a guilty pleasure movie. Not as good as Better Off Dead, but nothing.
You gotta stop, man.
I'm guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, drinking time. What
yeah.
you got?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's cut to the chase here. You guys are amazing. What do you got? Caleb, what you drinking today?
All right, we're drinking. This is new to me. Let's see if I can get my exposure here.
What, the mannequin?
No, this extra Ezra Brooks. Really affordable. This is their rye. I also got their whiskey.
Oh, I like rye.
Yeah, it's a really cheap rye, which I feel like doesn't always happen.
Are you talking like 17, 18 bucks?
Like, I want to say less than that. I want to say like for this $7.50, it's 90 proof, and I want to say it was like 12 or so. What did you say? Yeah, 12, 15, somewhere in there. May have been just a special. I don't know. So here we go. Yeah. There it is.
Nice. I'm gonna go then. I'm on back to the Gold Cock. I've been in Poland the last few days in the beautiful city of Wrocław, and I bought loads of really weird and wonderful Polish beer. And I was going to do one of those tonight, but I'm just feeling a little bit like I'm coming down with a cold, so I'm going to stick with the whiskey.
There you go.
So that's the Czech 2008. Come on, AF, get in there. There we go. Yeah, to the Gold Cock, very good. Like this a lot. This bottle I opened the show before last 2 weeks ago, so that's going down very nicely. As I'm sure you can see.
Is that a comment on full or empty Caleb's bottle is. I don't understand what the point of it was, but that's okay. I'm the host this week, so I get to say stuff. Just saying.
Oh, like that
saying.
stops you any other week.
Hey, by the way, just so that we have an idea, how much is Goldcock in euros approximately?
It's about 20 euros.
So it's pretty reasonable. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm having another wee dram of one that's becoming a favorite when I want the PD, which is the Glenlivet 14 Cognac aged. I like this Cognac cap one. It's kind of great for Cameron Flask because I don't usually want a smoky sweet. That's a lie. I've done that many times, but I don't want one today. So that's what I'm having. So here we go, gentlemen, to another episode. Slanjava.
Cheers, everybody in the chat. Cheers.
All right, so let's acknowledge some people here. All Day Beer sounds like a charmer. Shiz nuts. Bad Karma. I am drinking my famous Peps, all caps. David's having a Myers rum and a cane soda. And I'm reading just the way he wrote it, a lime to pull it together. I would say pull it all together. Having a Founder All Day IPA over here, that's Bart. And I'm on that Haterade. Empty stomach, not drinking. Totally understood. Cheers to everyone. And this guy's having a cup of tea and some Gentleman Jack.
I'm intrigued to know what I'm intrigued to know what Ian Wood's drinking. Woody's just joined the chat, so good evening, my friend. I'm guessing he's on Camden Pale. Good God, he's getting sophisticated in his old age. He used to be a Foster's man. Cooking lager, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Well, gentlemen, here we are, and I'm going to hopefully do all right after being chastised. Forget it. I'm not even going there. Larry has nothing to drink, and Rob is just going straight to cognac, not even cognac cask. So well done, everybody, and thank you for coming. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to Caleb's channel and one day to Ben's channel.
You can subscribe. There's just nothing there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually okay. Good. All right. Good. And I had somebody, they made a comment a couple of weeks ago after one of the episodes, and it's sort of like a challenge. Like, I haven't seen any of Ben's work, and I said the link to his website's every single episode, so I just gave it to them again, and then they calmed down. I'm like, "What's your problem, kid? Like, get over yourself." Good. So there's a thing called Netflix. We've heard of it. And there are also these other things coming, right? We've got Apple TV Plus, and there's Amazon Prime, and goodness gracious, what Disney's going to be doing. But Netflix has been in the game for a long time, and they get to tell people what to do. And if you're creating commissioned content from Netflix, they have a little list of approved camera systems that meet their base criteria for how the vast majority of that program has to be captured. You just go to Netflix, you can find a link. Go to the recent article about the S1H being Netflix approved, and you'll see a link to all the Netflix approved cameras. But there's a little camera. My auto-tune singing voice, what's that supposed to mean?
I was just going to address that. I thought it was just on our end or
what
something,
happened?
But you're like, my name's James Schofield. I'm talking like this. Just randomly.
Is it still happening?
It's a digital thing. So apparently it's going out. Everyone else out there, let us know if we're Autobots roll out from 360 grad. Oh my gosh.
Wait,
perfect.
Is it still happening?
Yeah, it totally is. Yep,
happening?
Just did. Yep. It's
no,
like
I just did it on purpose.
Seconds. No, but it
really
happened while you were doing that. Yes.
Yeah, but it's still happening.
Okay, so what I should probably do is I'll cycle my audio again, and what I'm going to have you do, Caleb, I'm going to take my audio out of the chat. I'm going to step out and I'm going to resync my wireless off. And I'm going to. Is that cool?
You could, but I think it's a digital thing because you're freezing every time it happens too. You freeze for like
Oh.
a millisecond or two.
Yeah, well,
So-
damn it. Okay, well, here we go. So, Caleb, why don't you tell us the specs on the S1H, the little engine that has just been Netflix approved, just the basic specs.
Sure, Jem. So that's one H. Yeah, okay. This is
No, I'm not trying to put you on the
Sorry.
spot. It's just the
no, it's
basic
great.
idea.
Yeah,
behind the
yeah,
camera.
absolutely.
You sound like an Autobot right now.
Yeah, no, it's
So-
good. So S1H is a 6K capable full frame open gate camera that can do so many different things. It has a bazillion anamorphic modes. It can do 6K open gate full frame capture in a 3x2, all eye or all intra recording, up to 400 megabits a second. External recording, that remains to be seen what that's going to look like. It's probably going to have Apple ProRes RAW capabilities for around $4,000, I think. And it's essentially a souped up S1H from S1 from Panasonic.
Yep. And there are a number of other cameras. Hopefully, my voice is not tweaking right now. That are
it
on
still
its
is.
list. Is
But
it really?
It's
Yeah.
bearable. It's not like absolutely the worst thing ever. Yeah.
Pretty close, though.
It's a couple
Pretty
notches
close.
up, but it's,
Camera and Flask. 3 cameras, Canon cameras. I'm trying to say things very slowly. Panasonic, lots of red cameras. One Panavision camera, which is essentially a red camera. Lots of Sony cameras and quite a few Blackmagic cameras. So it's all the normal players out there in terms of what's approved. But there are a couple of other cameras that are not mirrorless, but that are relatively affordable, which I think should be part of this conversation as we get on with this. Caleb, do you have any idea why a GH5 is not approved? Is it sensor size?
I was just going to look up the requirements, but I thought one of the requirements is raw capability. And I'm trying to think of what else is on there. And chat, help me out. Bart, I think we've had this conversation, so you can hook me up as well.
It has to have at least that ability in the camera.
There's a very
correct?
strict list of like requirements spec wise. I know like resolution, it's got to be able to do maybe even cinema 4K or like DCI.
No, I'm reading it.
No, I think
Yeah,
it's UHD. I think it's
UHD?
UHD.
It
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
I'm reading that.
Okay.
It says capture requirements are raw, compressed, minimum of 16-bit linear or 10-bit log processing, minimum data rate of 240 at 2398. Has to have a capture transfer function, basically a log functionality, color space, and no looks or color correction should be baked into the original, and files must maintain all metadata. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, I'm unclear as to whether or not RAW has to be an option in the camera. It doesn't have to be an option internally recording because the C300 Mark II is on that, and it doesn't record RAW internally. So I'm just wondering, and the EVA one does externally as well. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's got to do at least, there has to be an option for RAW, which is kind of an odd one, but
it is. But then there's certain cameras that I would say fulfill, like the C200's not on that list. And that I would say fulfills all the criteria we've just been talking about. So I don't think it's an entirely just working down the list and checking things off before a camera gets approved onto there.
Got it.
That's true.
One reason it could be on the list is it has one of the more advanced anamorphic feature sets of any camera, much less a camera of that nature. So I mean, some of the stuff because I was at the launch event and they had some like legit dudes work with this camera, and one of them was a production company that specializes in HDR, so they do a lot of work with with like Marvel level stuff, and so they really knew how to work the camera. And so they shot a short in HDR. We watched it at like a Dolby theater, and then they had a set of anamorphic primes. So what they were able to pull off was like absurd. So I don't know if that's part of it. If Netflix is like, here's our requirements, and then yeah, it's really interesting because I agree with Ben. The C200 should be on that list, and then if it's just those specs,
Yeah.
the whole anything that has ProRes RAW attached to it should be able to be on that list almost. So
yeah, it's
true.
kind of interesting. C200 should be because of Cinema Raw Light, unless does every camera on that list that's there also have a RAW out option? That might be the case, and the C200 does not have RAW out.
It does not. That's true.
No. So I don't know.
360 saying that he thinks they've allowed a few C200 documentaries on Netflix, and that is a point and part of the discussion that we need to maybe address at this point. So this list, to be clear about, or my understanding of what this list is, this is for productions that are being commissioned by Netflix. They then have to be shot on one of these camera systems. What it does not mean is that if you go and produce a doc that's amazing, the story content's fantastic, and it's not being commissioned, but at a later point Netflix buy it, they don't really care. There's so much stuff that's been that's on Netflix that has not been shot on cameras on that list. You think of all the content on there, masses and masses that hasn't. So as I understand it, and jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I think, for productions that are commissioned by Netflix.
It is, and it has to be at least 90% of the content shot on that camera, or cameras that are on the approved list. So you can have multiple cameras if you wanted to. But Bart makes a good point. He says there has to be more to it than just the specs checklist. The Blackmagic pocket cameras aren't quote unquote approved. They have B-RAW. The 6K camera is a super 35 millimeter sensor. I would say that camera meets all of the base requirements of what that Netflix list is. And again, if sensor size is one of the requirements, which I wasn't reading that it is, maybe they're always saying that for commission stuff, it has to be at least super 35, but that means that the 6K pocket camera, I put that pocket in quotes, is a camera that should be approved in theory. So this is the first small one, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Another one that kind of is interesting is files must contain all metadata, time code, frame rate, ISO, white balance, etc. So in that case, the S1H would not be eligible unless all that's going to be over Blackmagic RAW, which I believe that's included. But it's really interesting. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. The only thing I could think of is the C200 with raw light. That's 10-bit, the full Monty, right?
12-bit.
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 Yeah, so
And
I don't know.
And when converted, it gets converted to Canon Log 2 and Cinema Gamut. It's well within the realm, for sure.
Or maybe there is maybe Panasonic, putting my conspiracy theorist hat on. Maybe
love it.
They did a deal or something. Maybe
Let's
not
go
money
Joe
was
Rogan
over,
right
but
now. This might be Joe Rogan show we're going into. Let's go.
Love that show, by the way. Maybe they're like, hey, we got a great camera. I don't know, but that would make sense because Panasonic's really trying to push this as like this is a crazy legit, and it is, but because that seems odd for them to not include certain cinema cameras from Canon, but include this Panasonic mirrorless camera.
Yeah. Well, Sky, C200 is absolutely 4K. In fact, in Cinema Raw Light, it is only DCI 4K, so 4096 by 2160. Lee says 6K pocket sensor is smaller than S35. It might be just slightly smaller, but it is it is they tout it and market it as basically a super 35 millimeter camera, don't they, guys? Am I wrong on that? I thought that was the whole thing about the 6K
Yeah,
camera.
Super 35.
Yeah. Okay. So it might be just slightly smaller, but I didn't see a thing on that list about that.
Well, what's this Panasonic AKUC 4000? Does anyone know what that is? That doesn't look like Super 35
sounds
to
like
me.
that would hurt. That sounds painful. I don't know. What
It's I'll put the link in the description. Someone who knows more about cameras can tell me, but it looks to me like a 2/3 or something.
Well, if we do run out of
1 inch.
something to talk about when we get a little bit further into this, somebody is also asking about this whole Netflix with the 1.5x or sped up playback option in Netflix. So we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on. So the real question is, we have a mirrorless camera. I couldn't give a rat's, you know, it's a camera. It has specs, but is this something that people are actually going to seriously consider when they're being commissioned by Netflix for a series, which is generally what you're commissioned for? If not, you're commissioned for a documentary. Is this the camera that you would say, okay, here's my list, here's what I can use? Is this the camera that you're really choosing? Except for in very, very specific situations, which are, for me, hard to even consider. What's your thoughts on that, everybody?
That actually could be yeah, exactly. That could be the reason this is on the list, if you think about it. Like, if you scroll through this list, these are all big, big cinema cameras. Well, not all, but, you know, there's stuff like the EVA-1. But for the most part, if you're doing a budget, you know, doc series or something, and you've been commissioned, if you're going to crash something, or if you're going to put something dangling in a Yeti, or whatever those little carts are called, over a cliff or something, maybe enough filmmakers complain about it, and they're like, all right, we got to get something on this list that's, you know, a crash cam.
Yeah, well, I wonder if there's something in the works that has required a camera that size, something that they're in the process of commissioning at the moment, and they've needed to find a solution that is in that form factor, and that is why that's being pushed through. That would make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Could be.
But who knows?
Very true. Very true.
You know, Eric, I don't know if Netflix tests the cameras or just goes on specs alone. I think there's some assumption that they test them, because why would they have 3 Blackmagic cameras on that list and not have the 6K pocket camera? I don't know. You know,
They all
that camera
reliability, you know, requirements, in which case those would not pass certain things. I mean, let's be honest here, right?
No, it's true.
You know,
but there's also, you know, the conversation that the S1H is a brand new camera. So there's no reliability. You can say, oh, the GH4 and the GH5 are reliable, so it's going to be reliable. But we all know that one camera can come out from a manufacturer and it overheats after 7 minutes.
But
you know, and so,
but like on a spec sheet and everything, the S1H is like weather sealed, the whole thing. Whereas, you know, you sneeze the wrong way near a 4K, and that thing's going to go up in smoke probably. So that could be it, because, you know, they're putting up money for each of these productions. So I wonder if.
Well, I wonder if things, rather than things being tested in the way that and Sky mentioned that the BBC, particularly in the UK, their approved camera lists were always quite a detailed technical spec, and having done tests on them, that was all, you know, in the public domain. And I wonder if this is more to do with whether things have been approved for particular productions as and when they've been needed, and it's gone through a testing and approval at that time, at the point of need, rather than it being a really sort of scientific test as it was for the BBC stuff. And they go through and they test it. Is it fit for purpose for this particular project? And then it goes on the list. I don't know. I'm guessing, but it would seem a kind of an obvious way to do it.
Am I still max headroom, by the way? Pretty
yes, you are. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's horrible.
It's not that bad.
No, it is. It's awful.
Yeah. Well, there you go. see Eric Naso's in
Talk
the
to
house.
kids. I'm gonna go reset this mic and see if it does anything. It might
Okay.
not, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah. Anything else with that? Part jokes, stinky jokes. Netflix does not approve LPE6 batteries.
Yes.
Have you used one of those? Just a quick side note. No,
No.
none of the
No.
new pocket cameras.
I ordered the first one and then I can't even remember why I canceled. I think the first test started coming in and there was this huge backlog, particularly in the UK, to get your hands on them. And I started reading plenty of reviews and just, I don't know. And I think at the time that I got a big contract doing a load of offshore stuff and I just needed something that was solid, weather sealed, and up to my budget for the C200 because I knew that was going to be what I needed for that particular job. So I cancelled it. But the 6K is really interesting. I keep toying with the idea of ordering one, but then the little Sigma came out, and I'm in that kind of little form.
That has no log. It's brutal, man.
It's going to though,
Tough.
surely it's going to.
They better, yeah, they'd have to. While Jem sorts stuff out, do we want to kind of transition into why does this not matter at all?
Yes, let's go there. Let's go there, which is what a few people have been saying in the comments. That's absolutely yeah. So let's go into that, which we've already kind of alluded to with this comment that you can produce stuff, you can produce your own work, it can get picked up by Netflix, and they're not going to go reject it at the last minute because it's not been shot on one of their lists. So how much of this do we think is being used as kind of marketing hype, and how much? I mean, I know that I've seen in particular camera groups that I'm in on social media that everyone gets so hung up on it, and it's madness. And like you say, it doesn't matter. Most of the people that are really, I mean, the C200 is a prime example, kind of complaining that it's not on the list and really up in arms about it, and go, well, most of those people, and I'm not in any way saying anything negative about the work that they're producing, but they're doing kind of corporate stuff, and they're doing weddings, and they're doing, and producing beautiful content on that, but they're not producing stuff for Netflix right now. So I just don't see what the issue is. It is that camera doing a really good job doing the work that they're doing right now. It is. And if you get commissioned by by Netflix to produce something for them, you're then going to have budget to go and rent in whatever camera system is going to be the best thing for the job, which is going to be something on their list. So
yeah,
that's kind of my take on it. I don't think it matters at all.
Yeah. And a buddy of mine has rubbed shoulders with people who are involved with doing Netflix content, and it is an incredibly closed circle. They don't just like, hey, we have an idea, let's talk to some new filmmakers. They have a very tight pool of people they work with. So like there's a whole process to get involved with that, but it's not like oh, I might someday just randomly do a Netflix thing and then I'm done. Like all those doc series.
Ooh.
What just happened?
Netflix. He was revealing some Netflix secrets, and they've just shut him down. He's gone. It's
So what happened? That is the question. Oh, I'm still live. Is it just me?
I don't think it's just you. I think that what happened.
Awkward. Oh, hey, Ben, what's going on?
We both got booted.
It completely exploded, and then I thought it was done, but I was apparently still alive. So
no,
You weren't.
You
Really.
left and then came back. We were all gone, and now
Jem's here.
It's just me.
Okay.
Hello.
So right now, people who are watching this after the fact or live, we're trying to figure out what's happening. I'm here. I see Ben. This is all on the back end. And I see Jem, but only on the output.
Yeah, and I can't hear him at all.
Hang tight.
You can't hear me.
C47 will be here soon.
You can't hear me.
I think we're live and we're back. And I see
we
Jem
are.
on the output. So anyway.
Hello?
Wow, that was unique.
Well,
we nearly got through with 35 minutes in. That's quite late for the big technical.
Can you hear
mess.
me?
Yeah. Shoot.
Can you guys hear me?
What were you talking about?
You were starting to talk about Netflix and their kind of the closed.
Wait a minute.
So that's just one of the many reasons, one of the many bullet points why that whole why people are so upset is so dumb. Is like, it's not like you need to have a camera on that list because you're going to suddenly become a part of that circle. And it just is like this is the last thing I'll say. Today's video that I uploaded, just because I thought it'd be interesting, I reviewed in 15 minutes every camera I currently owned, just because I hadn't got to reviews and people were asking about them. So I was like, you know what? It'd just be interesting. I would love to watch that. You know, Jem doing a review of all his lights or his cameras, whatever. So I did that video, and so many people were like, "Oh, thank heavens! Like, my camera was on your list," as if my list like validated them. And I can understand like some camaraderie, right? Like if you're in Canon camp and you're like, "Heck yeah, that guy uses a C200 or EOS R or whatever." Like there's that, but people are way too caught up in like, you know, being validated. Like, just pick the camera that's going to work best for you.
Well, but I'm particularly with cameras. There's this whole thing of constantly chasing, and you have something, and then its successor comes out, and then you're all feeling crappy because you've now got the nearest thing, and then everyone's looking to upgrade. And often that camera is still doing the business for you. It's still making you money, and there's really no need to change because. And I've said this many times when we've been having these discussions, is that one, is a client going to notice in the work that you're producing if you buy that new version of the camera or onto the next greatest thing? Or is it going to make your life easier? Or is it really going to elevate what you're doing? And most of the time it's not as much as investing some money in lighting or in sound gear. So it's always, to me, a bit of a kind of hysterical chasing of the latest, greatest, newest thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Which is too bad. Like I've kind of taken a step back, and I'm using this camera more and more, which is the A6400. Even though
because everybody in the chat can hear me,
have other cameras. So anyway, it's interesting. It is funny how excitable people have gotten over this and other things.
I think we need to kind of address what's going on in the chat room. Apparently they can hear Jem.
They
can't hear.
Oh,
yeah, I can't hear Jem.
I can't hear him.
Jem. So I don't know whether he's just talking over us, whether he's just sitting back drinking.
That's great.
Doing both.
So,
Jem, give me 2 thumbs up and a side nod if you want me to like try leaving and coming back, seeing if that would fix it. Although I can't see you except for in the tiny 4x. I see him in the 4-up.
You guys are really
chat me, Jem.
Just wait for 1 second. So what happened was we went down.
He's putting his finger up.
Wait, we went down.
We'll just
and
stop
I got
talking
a note
maybe until he tells us what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna have
amazing.
a drink here.
Yeah.
Can you read the chat?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Stop your talking, kids. There's no black hole series. So I am starting to feel like we are on the Joe Rogan show. the live stream system zonked us out. It was right when Caleb was talking about Netflix. It took us all down, and now they can't hear me. You can hear me. I feel like I'm part of the people now, though. So I think what I'm going to do is let them continue to talk, and then I'm just going to do director's commentary over it. So I'm going to say, continue talking, gentlemen. And by the way, I think, and then that's it. Let's go. It's a. I can't believe they're now totally silent. It's unbelievable. So now this is where the director's commentary starts. So I'm going to look at them. There's Ben. He's looking at the chat, I think. Caleb
Okay,
is
so now
starting.
he's saying that we should talk again.
Okay.
And then take it back in.
I have no idea where
there
to
they
go
are.
with this
They-
now.
I
So
know. I
I'm
just
gonna be
pulled up
quiet now. See what happens.
the stream, and I just sort of. Anyhow, so
Okay.
we've covered that this is dumb.
yes,
I agree.
This whole thing is stupid. Like, but it, it's such a hot topic. Where should we go from here? The question
Well,
is,
if I was hosting,
maybe
I
we'll
could
just
tell
hang
you.
out with the chat a little bit. What do you guys think?
yeah. And the other thing, well, if you've got any questions, throw them into the chat. But should we have a little go over some of the new products that have appeared this week very
Sure.
quickly?
Yeah.
The drone, DJI.
Oh yeah, little baby drone.
Have they sent you one to play with?
There's two things
Totally
I
off topic.
just decided I'm not doing: gimbals and drones.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
what are your
so-
thoughts?
It's interesting. So it weighs 249 grams. I have no idea what that is in your language. You have to get online and figure that out. It weighed nothing, essentially.
Yeah.
The Mavic Mini. So the Mavic Mini has been designed, the new EU drone regulations state that anything over 250 grams has to be registered. And as I understand it, every drone is going to have a unique identifier on it, as an aircraft does. So that if you go and crash it into somebody's face, someone can pull it off and call the police, and that's an easy trace back to you.
Yeah.
I mean, digitally, there were ways of doing that before anyway, but it's just
Right.
trying to simplify. And it's actually a very sensible set of legislation that they're putting in. But anything under 250 grams, which 249 is obviously quite an attractive prospect. So this thing looks like, the camera looks very similar to the Osmo Pocket. It's a 3-axis stabilizer on it. It looks good. A gimbal on it. It looks very similar. It's 2.7K.
Right.
It has an awful lot of the features in terms of kind of automated flight paths as well. So the thing will orbit a path. Kai's done a really good video on it today, so go and have a look at that just to go through some of the features on it and the automations. It's not got everything. It's not got the tracking whereby it will follow you and keep doing that stuff, whereas the Mavic Pro, I think the Mavic does. So they're obviously needing to differentiate it with the higher end product.
So if you're
and
a sad, vain influencer, you got to go for the bigger one. I'm just joking.
yes, that's exactly what you need to. But it's still got 30 minutes battery life. It's a really interesting product for me. It's something that I get asked for a lot. I work with Jago, who's not, I don't think, in the chat tonight, but is frequently. He's an amazing drone pilot. And I just think I'd rather kind of go into director mode when I'm needing to do that stuff and let him do it because he's amazing at it, rather than going down. It's a complex set of legislation and insurance and all that stuff that has to be kept on top of. And he's been renewing all his licenses. And in reading all this new legislation that's coming out in the EU, it still doesn't really talk about how that's going to affect commercial drones. It's really talking about drones as a whole, and it doesn't specify about commercial use. So I'm assuming there will still need to be some licensing. You'll obviously still need to be insured. But it is a much bigger market that DJI have for that particular product. So I think it will do very well in that kind of high-end consumer range. So I'm kind of...
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'd love to have a play with one. And it is on it, and it's cheap. It's the base thing's, I think, 300 and
Yeah.
350. It's
It's
under $400.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it's cheap. And 500 for the pack with the extra
Mavic
battery,
Mini.
two extra batteries, I
Osmo,
think, and a
Mavic
carry
Mini.
case. And it's got those little guards that go around the rotors so that you can fly it indoors without killing your kids. It looks a really interesting thing. I think it'll do well. Where it sits in kind of commercial, professional use, not sure yet. And most of the footage that I've seen off it, that the influences that have been given them to test so far,
Most
it's not
importantly,
looking
with my resyncing,
amazing.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
Very low dynamic range.
It is. And the stuff off the Mavic Pro is phenomenal, the footage off that thing. And that's still not an expensive drone, but you're into that whole other world of legislation and complication. So the other interesting thing that I saw this week, which is a product that I've used its sort of earlier versions of, which is a console for, it was originally for Lightroom, but it now works in Premiere as well. And there's more and more applications coming into that kind of, into the software that it uses, but also you're able to customize it sort of fairly infinitely, and it's Loop Deck. I don't know if you've come across that product.
Yeah,
I tried it.
I think they reached out at one point, but it was continue because I have some thoughts on this kind of stuff.
Okay, so the first two I used, and it worked amazingly well for Lightroom for editing stills. It was fantastic and really did speed things up enormously. And then I did try it with Premiere, and I was struggling a little bit to make it work properly. I think more on my part to learn it, but it just didn't feel that intuitive. This new version is very customizable, and it's got displays on it, which you can then customize to have kind of virtual buttons within it, including things like color wheels. So you can use it for grading and actually be dragging your finger on around the color wheel, being able to change. Well, yet to be seen, but looks very interesting. So I don't know if you've
Loop
seen
Deck
that.
CT.
This is the CT, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to having a play with it. But it looks really interesting.
Nice.
It looks very easily customizable. The problem was with the older versions was that when you then started to try and customize it for use in, say, Premiere, that all the buttons were labeled for its kind of base use in Lightroom. So everything was, you were then going to have to start sticking things over it, and you were going to use it in maybe 3 or 4 different bits of software. This one you can use it in Audition as well. And because the actual display panels on it will then change for depending on the application that you're using, and you can customize those, that then becomes a really interesting product. So I'm going to watch that one carefully over the next few weeks and see the reviews that are coming in. But
interesting. Yeah, it
could
kind of
see that
reminds
saving
me.
money.
Shoot, what's the so streamers use Stream Deck.
Yes.
I believe is what it's called, the little panel with the buttons that are
Same
actually
people who make
displays
the
that you can
Link.
customize and stuff.
Correct.
And this looks like a cross between that and I'm trying to think of the other control surface. But yeah, that
Stream Deck
looks
is,
beautiful.
Elgato,
I think
isn't it?
my main thing with all of these is oh no, the other company,
You need a host to keep
the
us on topic.
magnetic little cubes that connect together. What's that called?
Oh yeah,
help me out, chat, or Ben. You know.
I can't remember, but I know exactly the product that you
It's
mean.
not like Max Headroom while they're trying to
Yeah, you
figure
can
out
just
what it is.
infinitely keep adding them together into this whole
Just out of
weird mess
curiosity.
of.
Yeah.
There's the weird audio thing
Jem, by the way,
happening
I see you in the 4-ups. It looks like you're live. If you want to talk, just tell us to stop in the
being
chat
director's commentary.
in live stream, and we'll shut up because
He's telling us off for going off topic.
Yeah. Oh, is he? Yeah, we're way off topic. He may have missed where we just decided to bail on the whole Netflix thing. I feel like we kind of wrapped that up.
I know.
Yeah. So Bart and others, what do you think of
more.
stuff like that? I personally, I love the idea of control surfaces, tactile. Like I always use mechanical keyboards. I don't use that Apple garbage. So I appreciate it massively. But I always feel that at the end of the day, when it comes to editing and doing video, a keyboard is just all you need. And when you start adding other stuff, it starts to just kind of mud up your workflow.
Well,
What do you think? What do you think, Ben?
I kind of would generally agree. And a few years ago, when Blackmagic brought out those 3 panels, so they always had the massive panel, which costs like as much as a house. It's like 60,000 or something. It's ridiculously huge, incredible thing. If you are a colorist, and you're using Resolve, that's what you're going to use. But then they brought out the 3 smaller ones, like the Micro, the Mini. I can't remember what they were called, but they sent me one to test for a couple of months. And when they called to send a courier to come and pick it up, I was begging them not to. It was so useful but the problem was it was quite an expensive product. I think it was about £1,000, but it only worked in Resolve. And I love Resolve and I'm using it more and more. But a lot of stuff that I edit, I'm still having to use Premiere, and it doesn't work with that at all. So products like Loopdeck are interesting to me because I can use it with more. But at the moment, I'm not sure if that actually works with Resolve or if that's even on their roadmap. I don't think it's on the list of stuff that they're talking about in their marketing material at the moment. But if I'm going to spend that money, I want it to work with all of those. So I disagree in that I think it can enormously speed you up. Particularly something that's so dedicated to Resolve or to a particular piece of software because it's so beautifully integrated. But finding solutions that will work across a broader range makes that initial investment far easier to swallow. And I don't think there's really much out there that goes across all those editors. And I think more and more people are starting to delve into Resolve and using it for editing, not for every project, but it makes it a harder thing. But this seems very open. It seems like it's being developed to work across all sorts of stuff. So that's more interesting to me. So hence sort of keeping an eye on it really as it develops.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe I need to check it out. Some of that stuff can be really useful when you have very specific tasks that you can't do on a keyboard, or that are more tactile, like
color correction.
Yeah, I never got into the balls or any of that, but I know people that have used the tri bald panels. There goes your AdSense there, Jem. Those they swear by them, but you know,
I love them.
Yeah,
I think the feel of balls on your fingertips is definitely a more intuitive way of
nice dampened balls as opposed to yeah.
With all the technical issues, as if he's getting monetized for this one anyway.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just like old school in that. Like for me, clicking in a field and tapping up and down or punching in a number just makes more sense. But I should try it out because I love the idea. I really do. But it's just I feel like the implementation.
I think this might be the time.
It's kind of funny. Side note: while we're going crazy here, and I want to know in the chat, guys, let us know.
I'm ready.
Do you modify your keyboard shortcuts, or do you just learn the stock layout? Ben,
no, I change them. But even then, because certain keys are duplicated from different software, so you then struggle because you then, you get your I to be your C, and then you C has to become your X, and then your X on that one has to be something else.
Really, I
want on the keyboard. So everything has a common, the JKL is common to everything.
On my mind.
Space is common to everything. IO is common to everything. But then from there on, I would say I'm most familiar with Premiere's keyboard layout, so I do adapt Resolve as much as I can to mimic that. Because I get really confused because it is the case that it's not that I'll do 3 months of work on one and then switch to the other. It's like day by day or even morning and afternoon I'm working on different things. I'm working on stuff with Jago, for example. That's always Premiere.
By the way?
So we're putting things backwards and forwards.
Just let me know if my voice is
if I'm doing stuff that's only going to be in my hands, I'll use Resolve. So it gets confusing. So I do. How about you?
I modify the snot out of stuff. I've been meaning to do this video for a while, and it's I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I'm a huge like PC gamer, first person shooter type. So if you're familiar with that, your hand is always right here on the keyboard, all the way to the left on W, A, S, and D. which is essentially mimicking the arrow keys.
Thank you.
And what's great about this position is you have all the modifiers nearby. So I've completely modded the Final Cut shortcuts so that this kind of like half of the letters on the keyboard are all different commands. And then when you press shift, they're all different. When you press shift and command or option or whatever, they're completely different. So the whole goal, I think what I'm trying to say is the idea is your right hand is always on the mouse and your left hand is always on half of the keyboard. And without moving either, you can do everything you need to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I attack it, which is probably very odd. But there you go.
Now we're talking about
No, I think it
gaming.
makes perfect sense. I think all of that works, and then for editing and the standard editing commands.
Yeah.
I find it's when I start getting into doing coloring that I want help and want things speeding along.
That's a good
Hence
point.
The original and the loop decks, and I think the way that the color, so the interface on something like Lightroom works for me is very intuitive. And then when you start trying to learn something like Resolve, and it's an entirely different thing, and they did bring in more Lightroom-like commands that are down the bottom in the color window, which work better for me. So it's been trying to find something that works on a hardware basis, so something that I can have in addition, and something that's light enough to carry around with me, because I do quite a lot of that sort of work on the road.
That is a huge point. If you're going from like an edit station or an edit bay to like in a hotel room, something that you can bring along with you, that I think that's really smart. So
we'll see how it goes. This is all just turned.
We've gone way off.
insane.
We're talking about keyboards and no longer Netflix cameras.
He's now telling us we have to wrap the show up and go home.
Okay,
I don't think he's very happy. I think he's all sulky on his own.
He's trying to communicate. He's probably trying to talk over us, but he just can't. His eyebrows are going up. He's putting his fingers up a lot. I don't know what that means, but
this must be torture for him.
How about this? Why don't we stop talking and we'll let Jem wrap up the show?
How about
let's do that? Let's just have a quick last cheers and good night to you.
Ben, wonderful talking with you, friend.
Yeah, really nice. This was
nice.
This was kind of a quite intimate little chat tonight. It was good.
Yeah. Cheers, friend.
Nice one. Slancher.
All right, Jem, take us out.
Love that S1H. Thank you, Netflix, for sponsoring the show. And enjoy speaking about gaming, post-production, and the string theory. When you guys listen to this, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what next week's topic is. The one thing I do know is I'm not going to be the host of the show. And it's been a pleasure. I don't even know what to say anymore. This is by far the most effed episode of Cameron Flask, and that's what makes it special. It always does. We love you guys, and even though they can't hear me and they're sitting there just looking off with that, look at that look that Ben has on his face. It's unbelievable. Somebody tell him next week auto-tune will be the topic. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, everybody. We're going to the logo, and see you guys next week.
Oh my gosh. I'm watching live, but I have no idea what the delay is.
You're still live.
So, okay.
You're still live, guys.
Well, there it is. I guess at this point, I'll just say goodnight to you, Ben.
It says now it doesn't end. So yeah, we're still live.
Oh, wow. Still hot, lol. Oh my gosh. Well, this...
That's why they stay around, by the way.
This has been a fun one, though. I mean, it's not ideal at all, especially for Jem, but it's been a hoot, a holler and a half.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's been good fun.
Look,
yeah.
string theory and all that.
Chat, if you're still seeing me for some reason, even though this is over, And
I'm going to end
Ben
the
and
stream.
Good
What
night
does it
and
say?
farewell. Life short. Drink it
It feels
in.
like we should. This feels like we should be now doing kind of brandy and cigars and a little kind of
Yeah.
post-show show.
Or some
Yeah, yeah.
cognac, maybe.
Oh
Even though
man.
you can't
Well,
hear me. You
The
guys are
never-ending
amazing.
live stream.
I'm not hearing
out.
anything from
Bye,
Jem.
guys.
He has to go, I think.
I'm doing a hard out. See you guys
Ben.
later. New topic.
Yeah,
Godspeed and good night,
We're out.
friend.